Okay, so good day, sir. I'm Cadet 5. I'm here to share my understanding about MARPOL Annex 5 and Annex 6. So, in MARPOL Annex 5, entitled Regulations for the Prevention of Pollution by Garbage from Ships. So, it came into force on December 31, 1988. It specifies the distances from land in which materials may be disposed and subdivided different types of garbage, marine debris. The requirements are stricter, but perhaps the most prominent part of the annex is the complete ban of dumping plastics into the ocean. There are 9 regulations. The first is Regulation 1, the definitions, and the Regulation 2 is applications. The Regulation 3 is the disposal of garbage outside the special areas, while in regulation number 4 is special requirements for disposal of garbage, and in regulation 5 is disposal of garbage within special area. In regulation 6 is exceptions, regulation 7 reception facilities, and regulation 8 port state control on operational requirements. Lastly, the regulation 9. So the regulation 9 is the placards, garbage management plans, and garbage record keeping. So, in definition of garbage, garbage means all kinds of victual, domestics, and operational waste, excluding fresh fish and parts generated during the normal operation of the ships and liable to be disposed of continuously or periodically, except those substances which are defined or listed in other annexes to the present convention. While in the nearest land, the term from the nearest land means from the baseline from which the territorial sea of territory in questions is established in accordance with international law. And lastly, the special area. So special area means a sea area where for recognized technical reasons in relation to its oceanographical and ecological condition and to particular character of its traffic, the adoption of special mandatory methods for the prevention of sea pollution by garbage is required. So, in special requirements for disposal of garbage, the disposal of any materials is regulated by this annex is from fixed or floating platforms engaged in the exploration, exploitation, and associated offshore processing of seabed mineral resources, and from all other ships when alongside or within 500 m of such platforms. The disposal into the sea of food waste may be permitted when they have been passed through a comminute or grinder from such fixed or floating platforms located more than 12 nautical miles from the land, and all other ships when alongside or within 500 platforms. So there are 8 special areas established under the MARPOL Annex 5. These are the first, Red Sea, Black Sea, Baltic area, Mediterranean Sea, Gulf areas, North Sea, the wider Caribbean, and the Antarctic region. So, the special mandatory mode of pollution prevention and control by garbage is adopted under Annex 5 to safeguard an ecological and oceanographic structure of these regions. These areas are recognized or marked on the basis of maritime traffic, water exchange, ice condition, and number of endangered species. So, furthermore, in Regulation 3, 4, and 5 of this annex shall not apply to the disposal of garbage from ships necessary for the purpose of securing the safety of a ship and those on board or saving life at sea. The escape of garbage resulting from damage to a ship or it is provided all reasonable precautions have been taken before and after the occurrence of the damage for the purpose of preventing or minimizing the escape, the accidental loss of synthetic fishing nets. So it provided that all reasonable precautions have been taken to prevent such loss. So that's all for the MARPOL Annex 5. So next is the MARPOL Annex 6 entitled Prevention of Air Pollution from Ships. So the MARPOL Annex 6 is intended to prevent pollution of the air seagoing ships. The said annex said that entered into force internationally on May 19, 2005. inter alia limit values for nitrogen oxide and sulfur oxide. So, adoption of MARPOL Annex 6. The International Convention for the Prevention of Pollution from Ships was adopted on November 2, 1973 by the International Conference on Marine Pollution convened by the International Maritime Organization, or what we call IMO. In response to a spate of tanker accidents in 1976-1977, the Protocol of 1978 relating to MARPOL was adopted in February 1978. As the 1973 MARPOL had not yet entered into force, the 1978 MARPOL Protocol absorbed the parent convention. The combined instrument referred to as MARPOL 73-78 entered into force on October 2, 1983. So in September 1997, the Protocol of 1997 was adopted to amend MARPOL 73-78 and to add the 6th Annex to address air pollution from ships. MARPOL Annex 6 entered into force on May 19, 2005. So the MARPOL Annex 6 has 4 chapters with a total of 23 regulations. The MARPOL Annex 6 provides requirements for the control of emissions from ships such as ozone depleting substance, nitrogen oxides, sulfur oxides, and particulate matter, and other pollutants. So furthermore, it provides criteria and procedures in determining the NOx and SOx and particulate matter. So in Annex 6 Relegation 12, deliberate emissions of odds which include halons and chlorofluorocarbons are prohibited. Also, new installations containing odds are prohibited on all ships, but new installations containing hydrochlorocarbons are permitted until January 1, 2020. So in Relegation 13, NOx emissions limits from diesel engines have been determined. The NOx technical code has been adopted to specify the requirements for the testing, survey, and certifications of marine diesel engines in order to comply with the NOx emissions limits of the aforementioned regulations. So in Regulation 14, the sulfur content of any fuel used on board shall not exceed to 4.5% mm prior to January 1, 2013. While in Regulation 15, provisions on emissions of NOx from a tanker vessel may be applied if a party intended to regulate such emissions on its ports or terminals. And in Regulation 16, shipboard incineration is controlled, prohibiting burning on board such as contaminated packing materials, polychlorinated biphenyls, and exhaust gas cleaning systems residues, among others. So in Regulation 17, ship waste, particularly equipment containing odds when removed from ships and exhaust cleaning system residues, must be properly discharged to a reception facility. And also the MARPOL Annex 6 applies to ships of 400 gross tonnage and above with certain exceptions as stipulated in Regulation 3. Under Regulation 3, MARPOL Annex 6 shall not apply to any emissions necessary for the purpose of securing the safety of a ship or saving life at sea. Also, in any emissions resulting from damage to a ship or its equipment. And under Regulation 19, so the administration may waive the requirement for ships of 400 gross tonnage and above from complying with Regulation 20 and 21. So this waiver may not be applied to ships 400 gross tonnage and above. So that's all for my understanding on MARPOL Annex 5 and MARPOL Annex 6.